I'd just like to add a few considerations about why this could be important. First consideration: when you learn a language, any language, the main problem is learning names for things. Things could be concepts. And the problem tends to be one of homonyms, especially in English, that the same word or phrase can signify many, many different things. One example, the phrasal verb run into. Okay? I can run into a tree. I'm running along, boom, I hit the tree, run into. But I can run into a friend, and that means to meet casually. It doesn't imply collision or anything like that. I can run into difficulties, means to encounter difficulties. I can run into problems. Okay, so the phrasal verb run into changes its meaning according to where it's used. Okay, that's a problem of the homonym. All right, actually, different concepts are attached to the same string of signifiers. Now, variation is the other way around. Variation tends to imply that there is the one signifier or a series of available signifiers that refer to the one thing. The problem is, or signified, okay, they don't refer in quite the same way. Each act of reference gives secondary semantic effects. You might want to call them connotations. We're not bothered about the terminology at this stage. I just want to indicate that variation is something beyond the common problems encountered in learning a language. It's a whole sphere that becomes important when you want to learn or use a language very, very well. You don't just want to know what is that person saying to me, but you want to know what kind of relationship they are signifying when they speak to me. What kind of connotations? Or, where is this person from? When we speak, we're using variation to indicate our social status, our relationship with the receiver, and often where we're from or where we want people to think we're from. Variation can give you a lot of information about language use, whereas homonyms tend to be a problem of language systems. Variation can happen on any linguistic level. It can be phonetic, where I say, I think, think. But somebody from Ireland, from around Dublin especially, might say, I think, and the th becomes a t. Okay? That variation is on phonetic level, and it tends to indicate an Irish accent in English. Okay? But variation could be morphological, it could be syntactic, it could be textual, or it could be the choice of a particular language. Most of the work in the sociolinguistics of variation has been done in the United States, and a lot of what we're going to see in this course is associated with a particular sociolinguist called William Leboeuf, working in Pennsylvania. Now, University of Pennsylvania. Now, most of the variation that the American linguists look at is on the level of phonetics. Why is this? It's because all the people I study are speaking English in the United States, but their accents are changing. Their use of phonetic variants are changing in accordance with class and also racial mobility within North American society. So one tends to think that variation is a fact of phonetics within that North American view. Here in Europe, and more particularly here in Catalonia, I think we have to struggle force ourselves to see variation as a much larger phenomenon. For example, if I say I think or I think, that's phonetic and it can tell you if I'm Irish or not. Okay? If I say I have a big car or I have a big car, that might tell you if I'm American or not. We'll see in a minute that this is a very important instance of variation. But the same thing happens if I walk into a shop here in Tarragona and I decide to speak Catalan or Castilian. Okay, I make that choice to say the same thing. And that choice is using variants. What are the variants in this case? Whole languages. Not just th or t, but I signify I'm somebody who wants to speak Catalan, I'm somebody who wants to speak Castilian, or French, or English, or whatever. In multilingual societies, I think some of the most important variants are, in fact, the language systems. This implies a far wider sociolinguistics of variation. It's not just a matter of having fun and games and spotting where somebody's from, but it's also seeing how people actually use variation to do things with language and to construct relationships. That's enough for the first lesson, I think. There's some exercises for you to do after this, and there's some reading for you to do on books that are in the library. Have fun.